Howdy.
And hello again with my mic off. I'm on.
Okay, I hear you now.
Great, great. Super. How's everybody doing?
Too bad.
Hello.
Hello, my friends. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. Sorry for the continuing confusion. I deleted that event in Discord. It's always been confusing. So, how is everybody today?
I'm a little bummed out.
Why is that, my friend?
My granddaughter's sick. My plan was to go out in the park and play with her all afternoon after this meeting. But
Yeah, my granddaughter got sick too.
man, that's like the worst.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to minimize this. I got to see the rest of my laptop. What's going on here, folks? Is it full screen? There we go. Got it. Okay. And there have been a few people who have said that they will not be joining us today. For example, Alora she's got a lot of family things going on. And then some of the new members. So we'll wait a minute before we start, but let me go over the agenda. Was discussion of the status of the new book release for 2025. Hold on, Alan. We'll get to it. I just want to go over the topics. When are we going to start writing Future Visions 2026, especially for the new members, to make them aware of kind of the overall schedule. Talk a little bit about our robots in space podcasts, and then a very brief discussion on whether or not we want to pursue business formation. Okay, so Art, how you feeling today, man?
Bit of a headache, but I was drinking a bunch of coffee and doing some exercises using this brain thing that supposedly helps increase blood flow to your prefrontal cortex.
Hey,
So been playing with that, and it's interesting. It seems to hopefully help. I've heard other good reviews from it, that it just somehow helps you focus. And when you focus, you increase blood flow. So whatever mechanism that you have that focusing brings blood flow to the frontal cortex, it helps you kind of work that out. So yeah, it seems like a good idea.
Very
Yeah,
good.
it does. Yeah.
Hey, Ben, I see you on here. There's
Yes.
Ben. How you doing,
How
my
y'all doing?
friend? How's
Good.
it
How about you
going?
guys?
All right. What's new?
Good. Man. I'm gonna be going sailing next spring. And just this past week I found out like I'll be like in a week-long class to learn how to sail so that people will let me actually charter their boats. So that's kind of taking shape now. That'll be like this
Hey.
April for the class and then next April for the actual sailing. Probably both down about Florida or something. So yeah, that'll be
Sounds
cool.
exciting.
Yeah.
Sounds exciting. Very good.
Yeah.
How about the Florida
We had our
or the
we-
Space Coast?
say it again.
The Space Coast.
Yeah, or the Florida Keys.
Fort Lauderdale's the class, and then we're kind of debating between Florida and like Bahamas for where we'll actually rent the boat or boats. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Today we had our very first snow of the year. What's the snow been like there with you? You're in Milwaukee area, right?
Yeah, we hadn't had nothing. I mean, I could turn the camera around. I think I see do I see any snow? I don't see any snow. Sometimes it's like piled up a little bit in some hidden corner, but yeah, it's been really light compared to like what Ada got 2 weekends ago. We haven't had
Right.
anything like that yet.
Boy, is that
This year.
backwards, right? New
Right.
Orleans, it's got a ton of snow. Florida has
Yeah.
snow. Wisconsin, nah.
No. Maybe a little north, but I think like all the snowmobilers, they're kind of hating life this year. It's been
So-
cold enough that people can make snow for like the ski hills and things, but yeah. Yeah, things are all
Well,
right.
Well,
we're gonna,
Texas, we've gotten all 3 days of snow already, so it's only
Ah,
gonna, it's only gonna be a big year if we get any more, so.
jeez. 3
Okay,
so far. Right.
we're gonna start, we're a few minutes over. Some people might be coming in later. A few of the new members are a little more tentative. I think they're gonna watch the recording and see whether or not this happened with one of the previous new members. She wanted to kind of just watch and see whether or not it was a good match to her interests. But I'll just list our new members here is Scott Bissett, Bruce Davis, George Garcia, Rebecca Hilligai Stewart,
Yeah.
Annette Janelle, Matt Rollins, Thiago Souza, Mike Spicer, and Charles Astronaut Ugu. All right, so the
Who's with
folks
us now, yeah.
really okay. So I'm looking at my spreadsheet, so I probably missed. Hey, Charles.
Welcome.
Charles.
All right. It's up to you, Charles, if you want to come off mute and tell us about yourself, or you just want to watch and be part of this for a little while.
While he's figuring that out, how do we know the name Matt Rollins?
Oh, he's one of the authors.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's-
this year already. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, hold on a second. Charles, you know you're on mute, right? You got to unmute yourself, dude.
All right, can you hear me?
There we go. Welcome aboard.
Okay. I'm a high school student from Nigeria, and I've been inspiring to be an astronaut right from my childhood. So, and I'm author of, I wrote a book, and I'm the author of the book, Discover Your Passion and Fulfill Your Life Purpose.
Very good. I want to point out that Charles definitely wants to be published. He's got
Right.
some books that he's working on. He wants our help in getting some of them published. And I said that what needs to happen is it needs to go through our editors need to review it for, like what is the content, what is the quality, the grammar, help you, assist you, give you some advice. And then we'll, Alan is the managing editor. Okay.
And I do the least editing, but that's gonna change.
Okay. So he will be the one that who's the final authority on who gets published and who does not, and helps you with that. Now, there's several people who, like he was just pointing out, assist him. One of the people who does some of the very good detailed editing is Ben Baldwig. He's on here, but sometimes you guys will see Charles listed as Charles Astronaut. I think that's very cool. I noted the other day that the very first Nigerian astronaut is about to be selected. So that's something to watch. And Charles' first question to me was, so how do I get on the list? I go, I don't know. I'm not at NASA, dude, but good luck, man. Your timing is good. Space has been kind of dormant for a while. I worked on the space station design, but that's just a few people at a time. You look at Elon, he's going to have a lot of people up in space pretty soon, right? So, very good to meet you. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us, Charles?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. So go ahead back on mute, and we're always here for you. If you've got topics or interests or writings, we'll talk about next year's book in a little while, but okay, let's go back to the agenda. Thank you, Alan, for pointing out that one of our new members is with us. Matt Rollins was where we stopped. He is an author. He's a very good friend of Alan's. Alan, do you want to, well, in his absence, you want to tell us about Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. He does some computer work. He has done game design in the past. Um, and he's a published author. He's got a book called Steel Wing, which is about a young girl who gets a prosthetic arm due to a car crash, and but it's it's a little bit in the future, and it's and so she's able to interface with computer games better, and her mom's the computer designer, and so that there's a whole saga that involves in game and out of game, and parents and kids and all that. So it's really pretty good story. And he's working on a second version of that. And in a weekend, he cranked out that piece that I think you saw. Actually, probably had a head start on it, but he he's got the article about how the AI trend and AI acceptance will probably parallel and match the internet acceptance kind of curve. Uh, what do they call that? A long tail at the beginning, and then and then
Kind of
or-
an exponential growth, right?
yeah, it starts
Oh,
with the early adopters, and then then the big bulk of people, and then finally the kind of they call them the laggards. So he talks about that transition. And I see we've got Scott on board
Yeah.
now too.
Hey,
Yeah.
let's go over to him. Scott Bissett, I believe. Come off mute, and if you want to, tell us about yourself, my friend.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please tell us about yourself, Scott.
Uh, I guess 25 years old. I live in the UK, but I guess my first encounter with sort of transhumanism and futurism was sort of when I was about 16. I was a part of the transhumanist UK party, a little formation. I think it started around 2016, 2017. And fortunately, I think it's just not really around anymore. But yeah, I guess I've been around in a lot of political circles. So yeah.
Very good. So you may be very well aware David Wood is one of the authors of a chapter in our first book, and we've been good friends with David Wood for quite a while. Callum Chase was actually one of the reasons why we started the group. I read his book, which was written in 2016, The Economic Singularity, and I'm constantly talking about the economic singularity. So there's a number of transhumanists there in the UK that we converse with, and so we're very happy you're here. Anything else you want to tell us?
I mean, I guess you've read sort of like I've read some like mini books, I guess. Um, one is like value as a physical thing.
Yep.
It just goes over because I'm interested in philosophy a bit. Uh, the physicalist or materialist conception of value. And another one is I wrote a book called a limited information theory, or like some like medium thing, and it's about how information doesn't really exist. It's sort of like a misnomer because in materialism, information will be a physical thing, so it's kind of a redundant entity. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, I have a general comment about some of the new members is that they're bringing in very interesting and not your traditional or expected or common type concepts. So Scott is one of them.
Yeah.
Another one that I
Right.
had a lot of admiration for was Annette Janelle. She's also got a time zone issue, right? Because she's in a different part of planet Earth, kind of like our Dr. Sharif in Bangladesh. It's hard for some of these folks to join, okay? And she has a very, very fascinating viewpoint on if you imagine to a point where we get to superabundance, how you might interact as humans anymore. So I'm looking forward to Scott's writing, Charles' writing, and Annette, and others, of course. Now, okay, the other person I see on the line, and I'm not going to make him come on. Thiago has joined us. Thiago is in Brazil. I have the great pleasure of working with him. We're both Boeing engineers. We're working on an extremely hot project, and we're both exhausted. So this year is going to be hard for us to contribute a lot, but Thiago is another who has a lot of very interesting viewpoints on, social contracts and how we proceed into the future. We stop for a second and say Callum Chase in 2016, seeing what was coming like this is amazing. I think we started this group in 2022. I thought we had 10 years to prepare, and I'm not sure we have 10 months anymore. So it's very good that you all are engaged, and our timing, it looks like, was pretty good. So I like I said, I'm not going to make Thiago come off, but I'm very, very happy that Thiago, Scott, Charles, and others have joined us. Okay. Well, let's go on to the next topic, and welcome again, new members. Let's start with the status for this year's book. And before you start, Alan, everybody should remember that I am a slow is beautiful type guy. I don't have a real interesting growth at growth's sake. We're a group of volunteers. We have a few deadlines just to make it reasonable for people. So we've instituted a, beginning of September deadline for new writings to allow our editors time to work through their job. But our publication date is not critical. So Alan, you guys take your time and get it right. And the only thing I need to know it for is Scott and Thiago. Charles, you may not be familiar with this, but the last time we published our book, we spent 3 weeks on a podcast. We got about 22,000 views. So the only reason to know when it'll actually be published is so that we can schedule this transhumanism weeks that we have on the Rundown Live is the podcast that we go to. So Alan, please, I'll mute myself for a while and you tell us how it's going with the book, my friend.
Okay, thanks. I'll take it from there. Appreciate that, Mike. Greetings to new folks, and I see Daniel Tweets joined us, an old folk like me, but welcome, Daniel. Concerning the book, I have started. Maybe this is best shown on the screen. Let's see if I can share.
I think to do that, I gotta make you a host. Hold on a second. Let me maybe
We'll take your time, and I'll just keep talking while you're doing it.
I think last time you figured out how to do it, but I'm making you the host right now. So
Okay.
Here you go. I figured it out. An old man learned a new trick. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, see, it happens. Wait. Okay. So here we go. We've got all of our authors listed here in quasi-alphabetical order. Laura, Alan, Art. We've got artwork for the book, and then Ben, David, Dr. Sharif, and this one right here, assembly folder. I've gone in, and these are all the ones except Age of Superconductivity. There's 2 versions of that, and I wanted to get with Ada offline or online with her, and not everybody in the group needed, but because I'm not sure which one of those is most up to date. They're both like 2 days old. But anyway, you can see I've started numbering them. I got 0. I got my I'm honored to have been chosen to edit this year's, and this is when I talk about everybody's book. So that's a simple little thing. Meanwhile, then we got basically the chapters. We got Mike's chapter up front. I think this one, okay, Dr. Sharif, the second, and then the post-labor economic survey. And I'm with you, Ben, post labor probably needs to be hyphenated. I don't know what we need to do about that. We'll get it one way or the other, and that's good enough, I think. And then The Onus is on Us by Tom Ross. And then Jacob's article, which is basically about power. And so from the human back to the atom. And then number 6 will be one of these two, or maybe even a mix of both. And then I've got 14, I've got David Wood's last. So I've got those middle 7, or the second half, that just needs to be tied together. And that's kind of how that's going. Most of that's I mean, all of that's edited, and we're getting down to the last bits of it. And I'm just making sure I'll find a little comment in there about, oh, hey, change happy to glad. And I'm like, oh, wait, did somebody just not do it? And I'll look anyway. So, and then if it's done, click, I just check it off, and it disappears, and we got a solid manuscript. So the next step for me will be to take all those, once I've double checked them and then sequenced them, I will create one giant Word document, not a Word X, but Word, and because that's that's the one that most easily interfaces with Amazon stuff. So I'll take that, and I'll run that through, and we'll upload it, and it'll include the pictures. Most of you have pictures included. And I think we're good on pictures, but if not, I'll throw a couple more in just for fun. And that's it. I think really on the pictures. And because the other topic I've got is the discussion about topics for next year's book.
And that was an excellent summary. Do you have kind of an idea of about when you'll think it'll be public, right? I know there's a lot of work you got to do from now to then. Is it 3 weeks away? You got an idea?
Well, yeah, we're going to have this thing out by the end of January, Mike.
Easy, dude. It's, whenever you're running the show, we're cool. Okay.
No,
If you take till April Fools, that's fine by me, dude.
Well,
Seriously.
I don't want to take that long, because I want to get started on the next book, and I got other projects too, but I want to get it done right. Like you say, I want the quality there first.
Right.
It's not about getting a quick book out. It's about getting the right book out soon enough. And before the economy collapses or whatever it is that happens.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'm looking at probably the end of February, which is 3 weeks realistically. I mean, 28 days is 4. I get it, but
And so, for talking purposes, then I might talk to, oh boy, Rundown Live.
yeah, that guy. I know who you mean.
Chris-
I don't know his name.
Kristan T. Harris. Okay.
Yes.
Kristan T. Harris, and have a conversation with him about what kind of weeks he wants to set aside. Okay. And
Yes.
how he wants to structure this. And I know, for example, there was a problem that Alora couldn't schedule a time, and he wasn't very, he was okay to make time for Gennady, which it makes sense, but most of us had to comply with his schedule.
Sure.
It was a live broadcast, and there's just a few opportunities for a pre-recorded, but I hope to do the same thing. And let me make another comment about this, and we'll get to this in a moment, but with the new podcast that I've got going, one of the things I want to do is interview each of the authors as well. And then, of course, you got Dr. Sharif has his podcast, and therefore he'll probably invite us over there to have a discussion about that as well. So
Sure. Yeah, maybe that's multiple
You know,
sessions also, right?
this book publication is a gate. We don't want to start doing interviews when there's no book for people to go get.
Right,
Okay?
right.
So
And on that note, yeah, I think we want I think Kristan said, like, he's booked 30 days out usually, or something to that effect. So I think that was and I'll keep you updated as we're aiming toward the 3rd week in February, though, or 3rd weekend, or first day of the last week, whatever the math works out to. I'll look at anyway, when we get there, we want to, get him notified right away and start scheduling those interviews. And I think, yeah,
Very good. Very good. Before, thank you for that story. We'll get on to the next book in a second. I want to make a comment to re-emphasize something that we all know, but I want to make sure it's clear to the newcomers. Notice Scott's shirt, and that is really cool. What is that? Marks in a car, get in loser. This is very important, everybody, is that there is a very wide array of political and economic opinions here, and we want to embrace them. I will have a very hard time with somebody who starts getting really upset about one or the other type of political outlook. Okay. So, there's a version of superabundance in the Star Trek economy, Fully Automated Luxury Communism was one of the 4 books that I recommend on this. And you know what? That superabundance version, there's a lot of
Basically,
variations.
luxury automated capitalism. I'm
Yeah.
surprised
Okay.
didn't just change the one
Yeah.
word.
No, and there's a lot of views on this. So let's all please be very respectful of different opinions on how the future should be, because man, it's starting to get wild. Okay. So Scott, great shirt, dude. Okay, good. Let's go on to the next book. Okay. Now we know that we've got a schedule rough, and we're not going to push anybody real hard, but we're going to publish it. We're going to start writing next year's book. Okay. So Alan, do you have a rough outline of when you want to start? Heads up is Alan runs these normal, I want to say Saturday meetings with the authors, and he has a very good technique for helping people develop their chapters. And then we do that regularly until the deadline, and then it's a drop. And I've been really like a guillotine. You get it in or you're not in the book. Okay. And we're not waiting until later. Okay. Now, what's your schedule, Alan? What do you think?
Well, I really like the way we're handling that, Dad, or whatever, but because I do want to work with the authors, right? Each and every one of them, and in a working relationship to try to get the best writing out, and not also have the motive. It's kind of like the FAA, where they're both promoting air travel and regulating air travel. It's like I don't want to be in that position where I'm like, yeah, if you wanted, you could do all this extra stuff, but we really got to have it done by this date. So maybe just half the extra stuff. And anyway, I appreciate your enforcement of the hard deadline, because I can just go, look, we're cutting it off here, but let's work on this thing. Let's get this work. So, with all that said, I think we start that process as soon as we finish all of the podcasts. So, because then everybody's kind of talked out about their chapter. The book will sell for a little while. As long as we promote it, it'll sell, but it's a hard road to hoe.
Well, yeah, one comment, by the way, is the main reason I started the Robots in Space podcast was primarily to give us an avenue to make sure that the book is in front of a whole lot of people, right? I got to stop for a second because Bruce Davis just popped.
There he is. I see
Hello,
that.
Bruce. Hello, my friend. I'm a little bit jealous. You said something about doing a podcast for UAPs. Can we get you to work on a podcast that's part of Robots in Space, or can we share your presentations at all?
Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Cool. Okay, so we'll get to the podcast in a minute, but thank you, sir. His specialty is UAPs, but it'll be interesting to see if Bruce is also up for writing. But going back to the book, we do want to, if you have access to friends who have podcasts that you want to discuss the book, please get the word out. I have a long-term growth aspect of this. I'm not trying to get 100,000 books sold in a month. Okay. I'm looking very long-term on this. So, Yeah, Alan, please continue. So you're thinking when we're done with the podcast on the book we're about to release,
Yes.
April-ish?
Yeah, I don't want to have, at the end of April. We'll probably, if
Yeah.
we get that first.
Or May.
podcast
We
out,
could just
April
say
1st.
May, right?
May.
You know, just for now, May Day. Okay, I'll use that. Scott will smile. Okay, we'll use May Day
You're
as
gonna
a
have to
target.
refresh our memory on that, Scott.
So we're going to start having discussions. I'm going to confess, I'm already about a third of the way through my next chapter. I'm writing on technocracy for next year's book, and I'm very excited. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, well, my point is, there's no reason not to start writing, this afternoon.
Yes.
The thing
Yes.
is, but as far as the kind of formal meetings like we were doing before, the Saturday critiques, that stuff, let's not start that till after we get this book
Okay.
out to the world, so to speak, and then we'll be ready to, especially if you've already got something written by then, right? So yeah, feel free to write starting this afternoon. But that leads me to the next point I wanted to cover, which was, I'm not sure how it fits in the agenda, but discussion of topics for the 2026 book. So that
Go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it'd be great to sort of, well, I'll start with an anecdote. Let's do that, right? That's a good stuff. I'm a good storyteller, got to start with an anecdote. The State Department is divided into regions of the world. And you're looking at me like, of course it is, right? You got your North America region, well, which is not the State Department really, but I mean, they do Mexico and Canada. You got South America, you got Africa, Asia, the Middle East, you got Europe. But Madeleine Albright, who was just like 5 secretaries of state ago, maybe 6 or 7, she started all that like 20 years, 30 years after World War II ended. It's pretty shocking to me when I learned that it was just a bunch of ambassadors basically assigned by the president to go represent, go represent. And so, and I think we're at that stage now where we're representing different topics and different views. And Luis Arroyo's, socialism piece was great. And we had the capitalist views in there, and we had some Georgism. I see Daniel Thweets here. I'm sure Georgism was represented, even though you didn't deliver it, but somebody else did. And, we had the political candidates from the USTP. So I think we're starting to get good diversity. We're starting to get good writing. Not that it was ever bad. Well, that first year or whatever, Mike was like, just send a paragraph of what you think. And yeah, I'm glad it was, but we've steadily improved from there, and that continues. So I thought it would be good to break up into sort of sections, or like the market does with sectors of the economy. Or,
Yeah.
so maybe there's some people that are interested in the energy sector or the UAP sector. I mean, that's kind of a sector of its own. I know Jason and I were talking about for the podcast, doing a thing about drones, military use of drones, which is interesting, and it might be cool to do another one with Bruce too, where we're talking about all kinds of flying objects. But all that's good stuff. But I guess kind of have multiple people in a sector, like housing or things that policy wonks and writers can get their hands around, right? So even if it's we've got some fiction in there. Laura's got a great kind of scenario driven fiction. The hers in the brace, whatever it is, it's the mental connectivity through the internet and all that. And then the one that Mike Acerra did with the people that are saving the oceans, they're going to Mars next to save the oceans here, or the spaceship that's built in. Anyway, so yeah, if there's a topic, and I think there are some fundamental topics. So we've done this before. We're all kind of leaning toward our own expertise anyway, but I think it would be good just to kind of like, let's stick with those core fundamentals of how the world works, energy, politics, or not necessarily politics, but policy really. And transportation sector, the housing sector, the various sectors. And that, I think that will allow us, after a couple of issues or episodes, but before 2030, to be able to start tracking various indices in each of those sectors.
I like it.
So we can count how many people are driving cars versus Ubers versus self-drivers, or, self-driving vehicles. Anyway, so that's just the way I would like people to go. And if you've got a particular topic, fantastic, get on it.
Okay. I like that. I like that approach. Very good. All right. So let's see, probably the next topic then. That was very good. We look forward to starting the next book. People could start writing. Probably the next topic is the podcasts. So let's talk about that a little bit. As I said, I really primarily started the Robots in Space podcast to give us an avenue where we could talk about our topics, because there's fewer and fewer people who are actually, spending the time to read. And we reach a much bigger audience by doing relatively short podcasts. Okay. I do not want to do it alone. Okay. I like what I'm doing, and I've got a particular interest in robots and in space, and I always have. That's like lifelong. And so I'm trying to make sure everybody realizes that I do want alternate episodes with different topics from different people, so that we have a wide array. Just like the OmniFuturists, right? We want to cover a bunch of different ideas. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Mike Acerra is already working on his. He's written an outline. He's planning his. All of these will be under the Robots in Space kind of brand, but he'll have his own series, and his, one of the things that he's really into is industrial usage of robots. Okay, so he's already starting to set up an interview with a local company that's going fully automated, and there's going to be very few physical human workers there, right? So he's got a couple of these local to him that he's going to interview. That's his style. I already told you I'm going to start also interviewing the authors of, I think we've got on the order of 20 different authors so far with the 2 books. I know Jason has a very deep interest in killer robots. He hates when I call it that. Okay, military drones, etc. I'm going to be very respectful about this, but my opinion is we should stop killer robots. And Jason is of the mind that, that's kind of naive, Michael. We got to look at what our enemies are developing and prepare for it. So he and Alan and others are talking about having a series on military drones flying and crawling and whatever. Okay?
One more thing. I think the politically correct term is murder bot.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to talk Jacob into more of his passion for nuclear energy and agriculture. He's on a farmland in Kansas and has deep interest in alternate forms of clean energy like nuclear. Bruce Davis, of course, you heard me right away saying, please, I would love you to do a series on aliens. I know that a lot of people I know, when I say space, immediately want to talk about aliens. And I'm not the right person because I'm a skeptic, right? So we need an advocate. And just so you guys know, last year when we did our series on Rundown Live, the star was Bruce. Okay, he really had a great session there talking about the evidence for aliens and what's coming out, and that perspective that I am overlooking, he's going to hold up. So anyway, you're free to start doing that right away, dude. Okay, and anybody else who has an idea of you'd like to do a podcast, if Scott decides that he wants to show that the right way is not Elon Musk becoming a trillionaire and the rest of us eat Soylent Green. For those of you who don't know what Soylent Green is, was in my childhood, there was a great science fiction, one of the very first really bad science fiction futures. And anyway, so he's in this futuristic city and he's curious about what they're eating, which is called Soylent Green. So he breaks into the factory and he finds out that all of the dead humans are coming into the factory and are being processed into food that all the humans are eating. So, so I'm in the Blade Runner camp. Okay. Dave Wood is very much in the superabundance Star Trek glittery future. Nobody knows which way we're going to go. But anyway, think about what you'd like to do. The robots in space thing is kind of a hook that I want to use as inviting for people like Charles. Okay. I think back, Charles, to when I was in junior high and high school and trying to find information about robot spacecraft, and it was like nowhere, man. I was in a rural area with a tiny little public library. It was hard to find anything out. So what I'm trying to do is take some of the robot spacecraft that are flying out there, the data that's being brought back, the very interesting technical research papers that are being written for the people who feed on this stuff. Okay. Each of you here has an interest. I'm hoping Art Ramon is thinking about, okay, what does machine intelligence, cognitive automation mean for the arts, for entertainment, for his creations? I have to go back real quick on one topic for the books. There's a debate going on about use of machine intelligence for generating art and writing. For these books, you are free to use AI in any sense you want. I'm not going to stop somebody from using it. The first 2 chapters I wrote were 100% my own writing, me typing. This chapter I'm writing, I'm using Claude. And man, oh man, it goes faster. So I'm going to say I expect about 1/3 of it to be AI generated. 1/3 of it is quotes from research that I'm doing, and 1/3 is going to be my own creative spider web pulling this all together. So anyway, I hope you all spend some time thinking about how you might want to do a podcast episode or episode series. And part of this, of course, is just to keep getting the word out on what's happening out there. What is happening with DeepSeek? Okay, there's going to be some conspiracy people who love the conspiracy theories who are going to go way into DeepSeek is a communist plot to kill us all. Okay, and I'm going to go, no, they're just smarter. Okay, and they've been very efficient with their algorithm, and they're not trying to milk $1 trillion out of the American taxpayer. Okay, so
They probably are looking over the shoulder of folks who are doing all that. So
see, there we go. Right to it is it's kind of like TikTok is spying. Come on, TikTok is spying, right? Okay. Well, okay. So that's
well, it is, but it's just
and by the way, I'm going to close the podcast on, I have set up a monthly premiere of my podcast first Saturday of every month. Now we have this meeting now. We finish up, in theory, we're going to finish in 20 minutes. And about an hour later, the premiere hits. I've pre-scheduled these. And I've already scheduled them through May. I've already recorded them. They're what I think of as evergreen series. The topics are research that was done by a robot on Mars or the moon, Mercury. Those will be good 5 years from now. Okay, so they're in the can, there's set up, and they're ready to go. So we got one every meeting we get together, first Saturday of the month, there'll be a new podcast. Now those are evergreen. The ones that I'm going to stick in between there are current humanoid robots and their developments, because the physical bots are accelerating quickly. DeepSeek, you got the cheap Chinese AI. My next episode is going to be out Engine AI. It has a very cheap humanoid robot, very naturalistic gait. And if you put the two together, really smart cognitive automation, that you got the physical and the brain in a bot from China. They're talking about bots that are 12 grand. Okay. And then the DeepSeek, really cheap AI. Sorry, folks. It's over. We'll never compete against that, is my, I'm a pessimist, everybody.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could get one of those robots to do $1,001 worth of work each month, right?
See?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so my plan for publication of the podcast is first Saturday is a big interplanetary scientific and kind of longer episode, followed the next week usually by Mars update. So there's 2 rovers, Opportunity and Curiosity. So I give an update on that, and then I do the Mars weather. I give a weather report on Mars, okay? So I think that's cool. And then the following week would be the economy, because not only am I talking about what's happening with the humanoid bots, the latest ones, their dexterity and the cost and whatever, but I also have my proprietary economic singularity event horizon indicator, where
Yeah.
I'm graphing what should indicate, are we at the economic singularity or not? Okay, so I've got a regular series of 3. There's a 4th one I'd like to do, but I think I'm overloaded. The 4th one would be heliospheric weather. There's a really great podcast from this lady. She's a PhD in heliospherics. She does, the latest eruptions from the sun and what's going on. And okay, but I'm overloaded. I don't think I can do it. But anyway, that's
So
fine.
Mike, I know
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
know you are overloaded, but on this very topic here of robots in space, and the people and the opposition party, humans in space, and I guess there's the third party where alternate party that's like, why are we spending money in space? But I want to say there's an organization called the National Space Society. Very nice bunch of folks. Isaac Arthur, who does the Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur, is the current president of the organization. He just got selected a couple years ago. Um, and what he is doing, or well, what they do generally is they offer educational forums. So you can probably look in your area. You're Seattle, right? I mean,
Yes.
So yeah, I'm sure Boeing. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's probably a large, northeast or northwest chapter of the National Space Society. Hey, yeah. I mean, I think I could even go here and some of those people, they're itching if they get in what's called the ambassador program for the organization. They have to do 2 presentations a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's an outlet for them to do their presentation.
Right.
To earn their merit badge, whatever it is they got. I mean, to maintain ambassador status, which gets them. Oh yeah.
I just joined the Planetary Society. Okay, so I am starting to reach out to all of these, just like you're talking about. Okay, broadening my scope, because what is clear, Charles, I started getting really into robotic spacecraft when I was about 10 or 11. And my career has kind of interrupted that passion. I'm back. And so I'm
Fix your own doors. I'm back.
Hey, and hello, Jacob. We got Jacob here, and he's like into nuclear power big. That's just,
Corn.
you can
Nuclear
tell
power and corn.
that's one of his passions. We're going to want him to think about, does he want to do a podcast on that? So I've said it like 10 times, but please take your time. There's no pressure. There's no schedule. There's no deadlines. You don't have to commit and then you do it every Thursday. No. Nice and easy. Try these out. All I'm going to do is I'm going to say that we want the robots in space opening for every episode, and we want my weird little American Sign Language
Yeah.
Omni
What is the
Futurists.
OmniFuturists? Yeah.
Okay. And I want to thank Art for helping me get the double-handed version
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know, Muskrat is in a lot of trouble for his hand signals. So I'm glad we went to the two-handed version. Okay. All right, good. I'm gonna be quiet for actually a minute and see anybody have any comments about podcasts? Just go for it.
I got some stuff done on the military drones one. I generated some AI stuff, but I'm not gonna want to use it like word for word or whatever, but there's parts of it that are kind of cool I might want to use. If anybody wants to sit in, I was thinking about like doing like a Zoom meeting thingy and playing it and do a react kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, about what they're talking about because they miss some stuff and then they say some stuff maybe that ain't, exactly. Also, I was really hard to keep them from going over everything. Remember, we wanted just the first part to be like the reconnaissance drones, the real cheap commercial ones, and then FPV drones. But it wouldn't just stop there, even if I tried to tell it to, go on. And
Well, sure. I think that's a great way to do it if you do categories of drones, because you can do a couple of minutes on each one. You don't have to spend extensive time. But I mean, it's funny because the reconnaissance ability of modern drones for the infantry squad is huge,
Yeah. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's what special forces, deep operators used to get, they were like,
They've also been a big game changer in infrastructure inspection.
Yes.
yeah, that's right.
That's true. So let me make a real quick comment is my style is more of a one-on-one at most. And as you can tell, I like the monologue where I talk. Everybody must eyes glaze over after 30 seconds, but that's just me. Now, Jason, a lot of people have been saying to me, why aren't you doing like 4 people talking type of podcast? And I go, that's not my style. So Jason, if you've got a group of 4 or whatever, and you do a Zoom meeting and you record that, that is beautiful, man.
Cool. Then I can like maybe help Bruce with his UAP one. I can sit in on that.
Yeah.
And okay, so please feel like there's a open zone for you to create podcasts, some aspect of the economic singularity or cognitive automation, UAPs. I think that I don't really want to limit it. Okay. The robots in space thing is just a hook. Don't let that limit you. It's kind of like our books, right? We don't limit people on what they want to talk about or write about, but it's the view. Okay, one more thing. You see the word behind me, OmniFuturists, and I take that very literally. Omni meaning everything that's coming up in the future. And the problem that started this was even though people could identify possible problems, no one was providing solutions. Okay, so think about that. Okay, as you point out something like military drones, and this is a great thing. Okay, I'm going to quote or paraphrase Jason here. It's great to have the drones fighting, the robots fighting instead of humans. Okay, right? Is that a solution? What is the possible problem? Okay, solutions and problems. Okay, it's not just dump all of the worry or problems. Also think about how to solve it. Jacob is great at this. He's going, and I don't know, was Bill Gates listening to you, Jacob? He's getting deep into nuclear power, right? It's clean. as long as you don't have a Chernobyl, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, and to the extent you produce waste, it's just fuel you haven't refined yet.
Right.
The other day, I was taking some notes on geothermal power in certain geologies, how you have hydrogen sulfide as a pollutant. Well, hydrogen sulfide is 2 parts hydrogen and is a potential energy source if you refined it. In fact, there's a lot of chemical plants that do refine it because we already encounter it in oil and gas.
Well, right. And the other thing is, if it gets burned in the oil, that's what we started removing it back. I don't know, but it was back in the 70s, acid rain.
Yeah, because
Yes.
that's where synthetic gypsum comes from, is
Yeah.
when before you burn coal, you have to refine it. And when you refine the sulfur out of coal, you make synthetic gypsum, which goes in drywall and fertilizer.
Jacob, please promise me you're going to be working on some podcasts on energy.
I will begin loosely working on some things, and
Good. No
because
schedule.
I think once I get my feet wet, just like the writing thing, I'll get excited about it and want to do more.
And I got to tell everybody that even though I had no idea how to do a podcast, my good friend Jason said something about Canva. And I started goofing around with Canva. Oh my God, is it easy to make a podcast? Okay. And the first few were rough. The audio wasn't good, so I had to buy a mic. It helped to have a webcam, a couple little pieces of equipment and practice with the software, and I'm off to the races. I'm really enjoying making podcasts. So yeah, no, this is very good. I have one other topic I got to go through before we get away from podcasts. For the authors, I need to know who is interested. We're not going to schedule it now, but who is interested in being interviewed for their chapter. Let's see, of the people who are here, Ben Ballwig, are you a yes or a no?
Yes.
Thank you. Hold on a second. I'm color coding my spreadsheet like a good engineer. Scott hasn't written one yet. Alora's not here. Hold on a second. Jacob, are you a yes or a no?
I am a yes. I think that would be a good way to begin getting comfortable doing podcasts.
I think so. And if you guys watched last week, I did a tongue-in-cheek interview of myself.
All that.
Oh, I
So
liked that. That was fun.
okay. I'm starting to have fun with it. Anyway, those 6 questions are going to be the same, and I'll send them out to everybody. And I have in mind like 15 minutes. We're not talking about a 2-hour interview. Don't panic about it. I'll give you the questions in advance. We'll talk like friends for 15 minutes, and that'll be a podcast. It's an opportunity for us to keep pressing people. Hey, this is a book with some really interesting perspectives. Okay. So, Alan, you're next on my list. Are you a yes or a no?
Color code me yes.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second. Let me find the
I mean,
notes.
the specific question was about my chapter, and I'd give my chapter a little consideration, but I'd rather talk about the book in general and the ideas and that. But
That's fine. That's
yeah.
fine. And I expect some people are going to like take over the interview and start talking about whatever they want to talk about. So that's okay too, man. Okay. All right.
Of course, the best content is when you discover what somebody's enthusiastic about.
That's right. That's right.
And then it just the work kind of does itself from there if you tap into the enthusiasm.
That's right. Oh, you're right. I'm looking down the list of who's here, who's an author, and who I haven't asked yet. I think that's our authors. Did I miss somebody? I've got,
Well, Daniel Tweet's not an author, but he's a good talker.
yeah, we're gonna focus
Yeah.
on authors in the book. You're
Yeah.
right about that.
Oh yeah, has anybody heard about that ham radio thing Daniel wanted to write?
Well, he's on the call here.
Yeah.
He's with us.
Oh, good.
I thought you were just giving him a hard time.
Yeah, I think I'm suffering from over topicization. I can't like narrow it down enough to get something I'm really excited about. completing, but I have a problem completing stuff. But on the podcast topic, Mike, I was just like super impressed with robots in space, and I think you're pioneering a new genre of interviewing yourself. I think that could be like a hallmark of OmniFuturists. You know, if it's like, you know, how to interview yourself for a great podcast. There's a book right there. You know.
Yeah, there could be a whole episode on that.
I
And you
thought
could do it
this
all
isn't
yourself.
weird. This is just one iteration of Mike interviewing another.
You know, that might happen. Yes.
I
Okay,
mean,
so
you see a lot of people doing TikTok videos where they dress up and do two different cutaways, you know, where they're acting both roles. But I like the fact that you didn't, you know, resort to that cheap device, you know,
okay.
although
Hey,
it's kind of fun.
who I missed was Art Ramon. Okay, so hold on a second. Let me find you because I might have you under. Yeah, see, this is what happens with me is I think of you as Art Ramon, but you're actually Ramon Garcia in my spreadsheet. So, Art, are you up for an interview, my friend?
Yes.
Good, good. Now I got 4. I'll stop there. What I'll do is I will contact the 4 of you, schedule time with you, and for the other authors, I'll one by one get a hold of them, schedule time. There's going to be no rush. What I want to do is spread out the author interviews over the whole year, and I've got 24 of you to pick from, so that's what we'll do.
Oh, nice.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need them all in the month of April. Okay.
Right.
I want to keep reminding people about the book as the year goes by. Okay. Let's see. We're almost out of regular time, but last month I screwed up. I thought my premiere was at noon my time, but it was actually at 1. So it's another hour before this podcast premieres. One other comment about podcast. My good friend Jason pointed out that there's this thing called analytics in YouTube, and I'm a numbers guy, so I'm starting to like fall into a black hole on the analytics. It turns out that it does help to have people tune in for the premiere. And just so you know, just running it, you don't need, nobody cares if you watch it or not, folks. Okay. Turn it on, get your significant other to turn it on, get your kids to turn it on, and then they can come over and watch something else or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, they're not measuring eyeballs, they're measuring runtime on a download. Yeah.
Okay. So just so you know what this episode is about, we were talking about different camps on colonization of space. I am clearly in the robot camp. Muskrat is over there, and we got to have 1 million people on Mars tomorrow, or humanity ends. There's probably a real blend that's going to occur.
1 million people. That's a big underground city.
It is.
It is ridiculously
That's a
huge.
lot of people to put underground.
Well, Jacob, it's also a lot of people to die. And that's, of course, my point. All right. So the episode today is there's a Chinese Mars orbiter called Tianwen-1 that was in orbit around Mars in 2022. And there was a huge solar energetic particle event, solar eruption, if you will. All these particles stream over there. And what these Chinese researchers did is they took the data from their own, data from an orbiter that's from the US, an orbiter from Europe, and Curiosity on the surface of Mars. And they took the radiation detections from all 4 and combined it into a spectrum of, you know, the impact of this event, and try to give you an idea of how many X-rays you're getting if you were standing on the surface of Mars. And so today's episode being one of those more interplanetary spacecraft with a research paper and data, it's a little bit longer. I'm trying to keep them from being like an hour long because it's too long. Nobody wants to hear me talk for that long, right? So it's shorter, compactified, but I hope you enjoy it. I'm definitely not going to just look at American bots. And the last topic on this is we got a whole flotilla of lunar landers about to hit. from a variety of countries. The first wave of these like private spacecraft didn't do too well. Their success rate was kind of low. We'll see if they improve like NASA and Russia did over time. So that will also be a topic, but I could care less about them blasting off or their long trip over there. Once they land, then we'll start talking about them. But that's also coming up. Okay. So that's today's podcast. I'm going to say that the last topic on my mind, and then we'll just open it up to for whatever, is a brief discussion on business formation. And I've talked about this for a few years, and Jason kind of put a point to it recently. On the side, a few of us have had meetings kind of like what Alan does with the writers. Writers have been meeting with Alan for the last few years on Saturdays. A few of the musicians have gotten with me, okay? And I needed some musical creations for my podcasts. And I had all kinds of problems with copyright. So you get zinged and zapped by YouTube if you start playing some random song that's popular, okay? And I didn't want the strikes. So luckily, we've got a few very good musicians. Jason and Alora are primary, but hey, nice background, dude. Alan, did you switch it, Alan? I don't know. He froze, I guess.
Yeah, but that is a good background.
Yeah, it's a great background. So we also have a few other people who work with Alora on musical creations. So this is kind of like an artisans group. We're going to expand that group a little bit on art. And so I'd like to eventually ask Art Ramon if he has time to be part of that splinter group. But the point would be that Jason was saying, you know, as we create this music, we might want to have something that legally protects it. Now, I'm an open source guy, but if you create something and you want to protect it, maybe that's what we do, okay? Now, I've been kind of emphatic that I do not want a typical capitalist structure. I don't want a typical corporation. I'm interested in a co-op form of a structure for this. I'm not interested in becoming wealthy off of this. I do want us to be able to share in it. Now, the other aspect to this is that there are some costs that are being borne by Alan, for example, with the book publication and so forth. There's website costs. So some of when we sell our books on Amazon and we get a pittance for them, you collect it together and you get some money and then you want to use it for things. Jason may have a hit song that is top 20, hits a countdown chart or whatever, and he makes $1 million. He's got to decide whether or not he wants to share it with us or if he's going to be a greedy capitalist and keep it all to himself. Okay. But we need to have a discussion on creating some form of a structured business. Now, part 2 of this is right away, he's talking about DAOs, DAO, distributed autonomous organization. We are spread all over the planet, right? We got people in Bangladesh and Brazil, and Annette, I believe, is in South Africa. We got folks in the UK and Canada. You know, we're all over the place. The problem with a DAO is that it is not a legal business structure.
Yes.
Now, we can operate as a DAO, but we have to have a legal structure. So I'm going to leave it you guys to think about this. We don't have to do anything immediately. We're probably going to need a few people who are part of a small core that prepare the business plan. I haven't done that, but I suspect there's people like Alan who probably have done this and would want to do this. Okay. So think about whether or not you want to be on this, let's say, small committee that starts looking at the business plan and whether or not it's viable or not. Okay. How we're going to structure it. What are the redistribution of any funds after expenses? Okay, so I'm planting the seed because I think there's a lot of talent here, and I'm okay with very slow growth. I don't need this to double every 6 months, okay? So if we're going to have slow growth and work together as a team, the version that I'd been preferring was when you get to a co-op, there's lots of problems with how do you proceed? And so if you work by consent, it tends to be a lot better execution. Okay. So I work at an American corporation, and that's a dictatorship. There's a CEO at the top, and he tells people what to do, and you don't get to vote on who the CEO is. I've never voted on who my manager is. Okay. They tell me what to do, and then I try to execute it. That's not how a co-op works, right? It's a group decision. The problem is if you try to vote on every decision, you'll never get anywhere. So one of the ways that they've come up with that seems to be relatively effective is there's different groups and committees who work on specialized topics. And they might make a decision within that group, that circle. Holacracy is one of the terms that's sometimes used for this business structure, where you've got a series of circles that are specialists in aspects, like the writers group or the artisans group or whatever, okay? A podcast group or whatever, okay? And they make a proposal together, and then they put it up, and what they're looking for is anybody who has a significant objection to the proposal. Okay. And when you make a significant proposal, it can't objection, it can't be just that you don't like it. Okay. You got to have a concrete reason why this is detrimental to the business. Okay. And if no one has an objection, then by consent, it's proceeding. Now, if it turns out to be the proposal is not providing the kind of benefit that was anticipated, then there's a new proposal made to reverse the policy or try a different policy. Now, I gotta say that I'm not really willing to do any other form of business formation. Okay. And the version that's a lot of times it's called a B Corp outside of the state of Washington, but in my state, it's called a social purpose corporation. There's one other trick there is the social purpose corporation is allowed to escape one clause that these investors use. There's a fiduciary responsibility clause that goes with most normal corporations, and it goes like this. A corporation is required to maximize return to the investors, the shareholders, the owners. Okay? And they've gone to court on this and have won repeatedly. There is an exemption for a social purpose corporation in which we would be allowed to make decisions as a group that do not maximize return to investors or shareholders, but are for the benefit of mankind, which I think might be a good thing to do if we're trying to go towards superabundance, frankly. Okay. So it gives you a flexibility in taking some of the profit that we make someday. And this is the someday, by the way, everybody, is a long way off. No one should be thinking that we're going to make a large profit in a few months and they'll be starting to make a salary. You're to run in with somebody who thought they were going to get paid hourly wages. Sorry, we're nowhere near any of that. But the idea would be, let's say we start making some profit in the future on something, okay? Some of it would be distributed amongst us and we'd get to share in that. And some of it we might use for homeless. We might use it for a food bank. We might use it for housing for folks, okay? We don't need to decide any of that now. I'm trying to plant the seeds of the way I would like to see my future to be is the homeless situation is, to me personally, disgusting, that we are not taking care of people with the basics of shelter and food and medical care. And that sounds awfully socialist to some of the people in the group, and I'm sorry if you're offended, but I really am involved, not as deeply as I should, but quite a bit with a social worker who's part of our group in Everett, Washington. And a very quick story, she's getting shut down by the city because they don't like the homeless. During COVID, they closed all the public bathrooms and the homeless were shitting on the streets because there was no bathroom. They had no other place to take a dump. Okay. They didn't have a choice. And so they don't like her. She's been running this nonprofit in downtown Everett for a lot of very homeless, struggling people, and the city is shutting her down. It hurts my heart the way we treat people. Okay. So, okay. More than enough. I'm going to go on mute for a few minutes. Anybody want to make any sort of comments about business formation or how we proceed? Please go ahead.
I reminds me, I got a OmniFuturist song that I made. But you know, I'd kind of like everybody else to maybe have a piece in it. You know what I mean? So I'll like try to put a link to that maybe in the OmniFuturist Discord. I'm going to be looking to partner with somebody or even two people that know how to like create AI videos, generated videos, just the video part, because I'm going to have, you know, I could create so much new music that it's like crazy. There'll be enough content for multiple YouTube channels, but I could never make that in, you know, the videos form enough. And I'm not going to want to put, you know, certain stuff on my own YouTube channel. And in the last 6 months, I've looked around YouTube and there's all these new AI generated, you know, channels popping up, and they're getting views, like a lot of them, you know, and you know, they're able to crank out way more content than, you know, normal. So I mean, it's looking pretty successful. It doesn't look like people are rejecting AI and AI generated stuff. So I think there's probably definitely a market on there, but I would think that, you know, we would want to probably do it in a hurry, you know, before it's flooded, but you know, because it is going to get flooded, because it, you know, it's able to be done by almost anybody, you know. So if, you know, if anybody's, you know, wanting to do that, let me know.
You know, let's stop for a second. Has anybody created an AI video? I'm looking at
I've done a
now.
few for some of my promo videos, but you have to buy the subscription and buy the credits. And to make like a music length video, it's probably going to cost quite a bit in getting the credits to generate all those seconds of AI video. So that's one thing to consider.
Thank you.
Is that it's going to be expensive.
As the technology progresses, because a lot of it's open source, right? So there's going to be platforms that spring up, you know, like right now there's all kinds of different ones springing up, different photo generators, different this generator, and in time people are going to take all these open source tools and put them in one thing.
Yeah, Jason, wait a second. I think Scott wants to get in here, but he's too polite. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I've used that in video before. In video is like kind of a popular one. Like they have like a couple of packages. So like normally like you can have like stock footage, and they also have like the licenses for stock music as well get imported. Although when I use that on YouTube, they always get flagged anyway, and I have to like say I've got a license for it, and then they undo them, so it's a bit annoying. So, but there is like a really high-end expensive package on in video. It's just like £120 a month, but that one specifically has like AI generative credits for videos, so they generate like video pictures rather than the stock footage video, which is pretty cool. That could be something maybe we want to do because they look really cool, those videos. I use like the $60 one per month, which just those stock videos with like 60 seconds of AI generative credits. But yeah.
Thank
that's what I
you,
wanted to
Scott.
say.
Thank you,
I
Scott.
mean, the services are out there. You're gonna have to pay up front for it, and you may not get that return for a long time. I think what is important, because there is gonna be so much competition, is branding. You need to do something with the branding to draw in those views. Because like I said, there will be a lot of, like Jason said, it's a lot of competition.
Well, I've
So
noticed
yeah,
that some of the channels will like sort of specialize. Like there's one that does Viking stuff, and it's all about, you know, Viking, and they got Viking music, you know, and then there's one that's
Huh.
like this chick, and you know, she's like, I don't know, some kind of fairy queen chick, and she's got all this, you know. So yeah, that's why I was thinking there'd be multiple channels, because you know, you could, I was thinking there'd be enough to just make like a pirate channel with freaking pirate metal or something, you know.
Well, the good news is even if it does get swamped, we can differentiate ourselves with our creative inputs we flavor it with.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out some way to up the game, because that's what I've noticed. You
Well,
know, that's
okay,
going to be
okay,
hard
just,
competition.
you know, I think, Jason, that in a music video, you and your music are the star, right? So that's the unique aspect, in my opinion. And the video that goes on behind it, I think what they're suggesting to you is it sounds very pricey to do right now. And maybe it's worthwhile to just wait a little bit to see if, I'm going to say it this way, everybody, sorry, DeepSeek opens up lower cost things, because I think I was seeing 1 million tokens for 14 cents or something with the DeepSeek method. It was just like ridiculously cheap in one of the articles I was reading. So it
Well,
may be
It's
that's,
like the
time.
precursor to superabundance.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I was
right.
saying that we should be on the lookout for when they start consolidating this into one platform. Because I'm fully expect that one of these days, fairly soon, there's going to be some platform that pops up that has your video generator in it. It has your AI, your photo and upscaler in it already. You know, because right now you have to have like a whole bunch of different tools. You got to have a photo generator, and then you got have to be able to upscale that photo, and then you got to be able to turn the photo into a video, and then you got to have to upscale the video, and then you need another good photo editor to put it all together, and blah blah blah, you know. So
yeah,
to be on the lookout for a cheap one that puts it all in one spot.
I was watching this podcast, and the guy was saying basically you have to be your own brand. I mean, everyone is a mini celebrity. So we all have to become these little mini celebrities who are part of the bigger OmniFuturist branding. So that's how you draw people in from the millions of videos that are going to exist on YouTube.
You know, Art, that
So,
I
was
mean, that is
actually what I was focused on with the robots in spaces. It was hard to find somebody who was doing something more than, oh, the Starship is about to launch. And, you know, there's a trillion podcasts that sit there in Texas watching that launch, and that's all they do, right? So yeah, Art's right on it. You have to differentiate. I'm having trouble finding a whole lot of robot spacecraft stuff. Now, how many
yeah.
people really care about robot spacecraft stuff? It's a small group.
Well, you know, the funny thing is the people that do care about robot spacecraft stuff really care about robot spacecraft stuff.
Okay, folks, I'm pretty much talked out. Do we have any last comments? I know that my actions are to schedule interviews with the 4 who said that they're ready for it, and get those into my podcast so that people see that. Go ahead, Bruce. You got your hand up, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to, thank Jason for shooting me the link and you guys inviting me here. This is awesome, man. I look forward to collabing with you guys. And it's just like I like what you said earlier about, it being fun, being something we're interested in. And that right there, that element is attractive. So let's
Well,
embrace.
see, Bruce, you're already a mini celebrity because I had fun listening to you on the rundown.
Yeah, no.
All right, cool.
True. That's true. And I'll say this, that there is a very large audience for interest in UAPs, etc. Because I'll tell you, right away, my son was, after my first episode where I said no confirmed sightings this week, he right away he was like, well, okay, where have they been sighted, Dad? He's 35, he's not 10, okay? And I'm going, well, I don't know of any, son. Well, we got to watch Bruce, right? There's a lot of
Yes,
people
tell me
that,
about the tall whites.
okay, it's a big topic, Bruce. So go ahead.
It's gonna get more and more exciting. These things,
Yeah,
it's flooded now with information. It's hard for me to keep up.
that's right. Now there's a couple people with hands up. So let's go to Scott. And I think Dan raised his hand. So Scott, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like with the book chapter things, I've always thought about writing something, but like, what kind of things do you want written, like specifically?
Okay.
Like, because
All
I
right.
have thought
So
about doing it for a little while.
yeah, so and this is something that our managing editor Alan was trying to scope, is that there's sectors of this that we want to talk about. Now, the purpose of the OmniFuturists started like this. If you read Callum Chase's book, The Economic Singularity, there's a possibility that the bots and the AI become more cost effective than all of us. Capitalism starts having problems in that their labor is supplied by robots and humans are no longer cost effective enough to keep a job. Then they can't pay for their housing, their food, etc. And so the question we started with was, how do we get to a future where everyone doesn't die? Okay. What are the alternative economic and political solutions that could be applied to get us to a land of superabundance, where the bots, yeah, they're supplying everything, but we get to share in it, as versus Muskrat and Bozo the Clown are trillionaires and no one else has any money, right? There's the the cyberpunk and the solar punk version of the future. And so we started with, just write down what you think should be the right way, the transition from today to superabundance through this transition we're going to go through. Now, that doesn't limit you, Scott. You don't have to write about politics or economics. So there's other aspects of life that are going to be affected by this automation and the robots and all these changes coming. So Art Ramon was talking right away about how people ought to take up art, and that some people could be paid to teach art to people who are no longer actively employed. They're not employable. They don't have skills that can keep a job, right? There's a whole, so sorry, that was a very vague description, but the question before the house really is, if the bots take all the jobs, how do we survive it as humans? Okay. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. And personally, I think we can work side by side with each other. That's my personal solution. I know that there's going to be a mass unemployment thing, but okay, yeah, that gives me a good idea. Yeah, thanks.
And the Omni is literal. So, for example, there's a bunch of people who feel that this economic singularity will never occur. And they'll say, Mike, we went from horse and buggy to a car, from the plow to the tractor, and we didn't all die. What is your problem? Okay, we've done this before. And I go, you know what? The tractor couldn't think. Okay, the tractor couldn't do a spreadsheet. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and during those transitions, a lot of people did get hurt.
The Great Depression might be an example of,
Or like when railroads switched to diesel engines, like 2/3 of the labor force were displaced. Or even like when I was working in an aircraft factory, I knew a guy that used to work in newspapers and print newspapers, and the internet kind of happened late in his career, and he had all this experience built up and basically had to start his career over,
oh yeah, bank
and
tellers.
it devastated
Yeah,
him.
no, there's all kinds of things that technology is overrun. Here's the problem. This isn't like a function like the guy running the printing press for a newspaper.
Mm.
These bots should be able to think and do anything a human can do. And in theory, they'd be cheaper. Okay. So it's not a case of, well, okay, the horse, millions of horses were killed because we didn't need them anymore, right? To run the plows, right? It's so anyway, let's set that aside. Daniel's very patient.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Daniel.
Yeah, big props to everyone in the OmniFuturists group. I've loved my time here, even though I haven't produced my chapter yet. But I think we are right about this is a mutual aid and an evolution proposition. When the tide pools dried up, it was like develop gills or die time. And I think AI and cheap robotics is the gills that we are going to have to use to evolve to the next level. And there's no reason we can't help each other develop these evolutionary structures.
That's right.
And I think
Yeah.
that's sort of
There,
I see the OmniFuturists.
there
And
definitely
Scott,
is a good argument that becoming civilized is an unfinished process on the part of humans.
That's right. So Scott, my point actually was that there's a lot of people who don't buy my opening proposition that we're facing a dire future. A lot of people say, Mike, everything's going to be fine. And that's acceptable too. Is, the folks who are saying we're headed straight towards superabundance, there's not going to be any dire circumstances. There's going to be artificial superintelligence that's going to come up with a plan to use the bots to make everything everybody wants. Okay. So that's that kind of a chapter, an optimistic techno-optimist type chapter is perfectly acceptable. Okay. That could be the rosy future version. That's cool too. Okay. Sorry, Dan, I cut you off again. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at all these conflicts and wars, they're basically based on not sharing natural resources properly. And there's something called land capitalism, Georgism, geoism. Henry George was talking to Marx, and
Who talks about that all the time? Georgism. I've heard of that before.
It's an important concept.
It is. Dan, listen.
It's going to be more important
Dan, Daniel, I want you to use AI to write your chapter. Okay. Use it, dude, because you've got ideas. We need them in a chapter form. Okay. You got a whole year ahead of you. Man, you can do this. I know you can. Same with Jason. Jason, man, lean on that AI to take your ideas and make a chapter. Okay.
And then I was also going to mention about the possibility of getting publicity by being sued by big entities. And I have kind of a clever strategy for this. I've always been a Disneyland kind of fan. And, Walt funded Disneyland by doing these Wonderful World of Disney weekly shows on ABC that he made a deal with. And that's where he got the majority of the money to fund the building of Disneyland. So, with this thing with collaborating with the Pirate Party, which I think is a really important collaboration, seeing the transhumanists and pirates. What we share is this open source sharing is not stealing philosophy. And what that relates to is the maker movement. So, my dad always said, oh man, scale models are the way to communicate ideas, in 3D. So I'm thinking, Disneyland has that railroad going around, the park. And what if we started something called Makerland? That was just like, a knockoff of Disneyland, but not quite enough to get sued, but maybe kind of, Maker Mouse, maybe, and you could build, the whole scale modeling community, model train people, amateur radio people, railroad people. There's big crossover, and people that like modeling, entertaining, fun stuff, And so, I declare you all Makerland Imagineers, and
Makerland.
we don't have to use the stuff that trips the Disney lawyers into overdrive, but we can come close, and we could probably get a lot of fun publicity with something like that. And I think the Pirate Party would be really on board with a Makerland, it's the boundaries are imagination, and I know it's unfinished as long as there's 3D printers left in the world. But who said build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door? How about 3D print a better mousetrap, and the makers movement will 3D print a path to your makerspace. So
as usual, Daniel has quite an interesting sequence of thoughts.
Yes,
yeah, it's true.
More
you
than
always
one
have a different perspective on things. It's very good.
Anyway, obviously I could go on, but I want to leave space for us to wrap up and for other people to contribute. So thanks again.
Thank you. No, thank you. Any last thoughts? Let's go around the room real quick. Art, Ramon, any last?
I was just gonna say that when we first started this group, I was like in the camp of I didn't think the singularity was going to happen. But then, since we started this group and now we didn't even have generative AI photo generators.
Yep.
When we first started it.
Look at that Bruce Davis image. Okay.
All of that stuff
there you go. Look at that.
These last few years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. No, you're right. And so let's go around the room real quick and see last thoughts. Art, Ramon.
Have we discussed how many books we sold?
We have not.
First one?
And
okay.
I didn't want to press Alan on that sort of detail. He's working hard through the issues that he's got. So no, I don't know, and I haven't pressed him on it.
Okay, so it's more just like a general about marketing. We need to do a better job marketing because if we can't get eyeballs on the book, and it's tough making a sell. I mean, I've got my books out there and I haven't made that many sales. I think the most person who's bought books is me. I've actually made my own books and gifted them out. So, there's a lot of competition, just like everything, selling art. There's plenty of competition selling art. So I think that's where we need to focus a bit on is after we get it done is get with the marketing somehow.
So a couple of notes. I think we sold on the order of 100 books total, from last year's. All right. And they were $5 a piece. And of course, now we're giving them out for free. I'm very much into the open source. So we've got a PDF version of last year's book that I just give off. Okay. And we're going to continue to give out. Now on the marketing, that's part of why I started the podcast. That's why I'm inviting you all to add on to this is if we can build a brand, OmniFuturists or Robots in Space or whatever it is, that's the avenue to start pointing out the book and pointing people back for sales. And a side note with Mike Acerra, I've pointed out that I'm open to having commercials on our podcasts. I don't know how all of you feel about that. I'm not even considering charging for the commercials to start with, right? We're too small to charge somebody. But for example, that first interview he does with that company, I've invited him to not only put a commercial in for that company, but also Mike Acerra has his own company, Lux Blocks. I said, give us a commercial that's a minute long and we'll run it. Okay. So yeah, Art is correct. When we start this committee on a business, Art, I think you should be on marketing. That's my suggestion to you. I think you'd be great at it, but think about it. Let's keep going. Yeah, let's keep going around. Ben Baldwin, any last comments, questions, concerns?
If people have a Prime account, can I buy the book for them? I would like to be able to give it to the people that I interviewed.
That's interesting. We're going to have to talk to Alan about that. I don't know how that would be structured. I think that is very generous of you. That is a very good idea. buy it for people so that they have it.
Yeah, I mean, I've bought my own books, like my children books. I just hit Kelvin in Nigeria like $4. And
Hey,
it cost me $98 for $4. So it was pretty pricey with the import taxes that they put on there along with the shipping. But I did send him $4, and I've gifted several of my books out there.
and
So,
the other topic that I did not give Alan a hard time, that almost every month I say, where is my physical copy of my book? I want a paperback from last year's book, and he's just overloaded. Okay. And that's something that he was thinking of a price of around $10 or $15 a copy. I would buy 10 copies and give them to my kids and my grandkids. Okay. This is just like, this is a vanity press aspect to it, right? A hand-me-down. Grandpa was part of writing this book. I love this stuff, and for whatever reason, we can't get past that to the physical books. Art Ramon went right to a physical book, okay, which I thought was good. Scott Bissett, any questions, comments as we close out?
I mean, you thought about getting like, I think Amazon does things where you can publish a little book on with their service. I've heard about that. We could also get like our own printer, I guess. It doesn't have to be particularly high quality, but it's one way of doing it as well. I've been in organizations where they publish their own stuff and they have their
Yes.
own printer, which they would publish it on. So yeah.
Very true, Scott. Our book as an ebook is on Amazon, and what Alan he's gotten a prototype through Amazon of a physical book. I don't know, it was 240 or 320 pages long or whatever. It's not a minor book, but we're close to having a paperback available on Amazon, physical. And so this year's book that we're about to publish in the next few weeks, that also will be as an ebook and physical at some point. Okay. So yeah, Alan already has an arrangement to publish books through his publishing company. And I don't know the details of it, but that's why he's the managing editor, is he does this regularly. He writes science fiction with others who are in the group. And so, yeah, no, that's very good.
It could be like a book publishing business if he have our own printer, but does he own that publishing company?
Yes,
Something.
that's my understanding. And you know what, next month when we get together, we'll ask Alan to describe, does anybody, Ben, do you remember the name of his company, his publishing company? No? Okay. No one? Okay. We'll ask him, Scott, next month. Okay. All right. And remember, everybody, the meetings are the first Saturday of every month. First Saturday of every month, same time. Jacob, you're next on the list. Any last comments, questions, concerns?
Well, I don't have any questions, but glad to see everybody. And it sounds like we've got a lot of really exciting stuff on the burner.
Yep. Very good. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Charles, astronaut, how are you doing, man? What do you think? You're on mute, dude. Unmute yourself and tell us what's on your mind.
I think it's nice, and location and everything is nice.
We're looking forward
the
to.
suggestion and
Go ahead.
the suggestion and everything is nice.
Very good. Very good. Hey, we're looking forward to seeing your writing, my friend.
Okay.
Yeah, please take good care of yourself, and we're so happy to see you today, man. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
And we'll be
All right. Thank you very
rooting
much.
to see you. Now, I do have to ask you one question. If you had to go to only one place first, would it be the moon or Mars or where?
I think the Mars.
Mars. So you like Musk's plan, correct?
Yeah.
I would like to see you write about you write about whatever you want, dude. Okay. But I
Okay.
would love to see a chapter where you're talking about how you want to go to Mars and why. First person
Right.
perspective about this is what I want to do when I get to Mars. This is what I could be. And maybe it's how you advertise yourself to Mr. Musk.
Okay.
I don't know if you know this, Charles, but I did work at SpaceX. I was interviewed by Elon. That was
All right.
a few years ago, but I have worked on that company. I worked on the Dragon spacecraft design. The mission I was on, we took some big tools up to the space station. Now, I also worked on the design of the space station. That was
Okay.
way long ago, but I was a primary structure lead engineer for the truss. You know, the big backbone of the space station? Okay, that was, I was
Yeah.
part of I was one of the lead engineers for that truss. So, think about that. I think your promotion of yourself as Charles Astronaut is smart. You're trying to say to the
All
whole
right.
world, look, I am going to be an astronaut, dudes. Look at me now. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Daniel,
Right.
any last comments? Any last questions?
Oh, well, yeah, great to see Charles here. You know, the developing world has that talent that the demographic collapse of the first world does not have. So it's very important that we make allies and connections, you know, as much as possible in
Right.
the old, developing world. I guess third world is no longer the politically correct description. But yeah, you were mentioning, you know, my friend Greg Allison, late of NASA, now living in a off-grid spread in Snowflake, Arizona. He does great videos, and he did a whole one about the cloud tops of Venus and how they are far more habitable as far as human solar system expansion, life expansion. You know, 60 miles above the you know, the surface, you've got Earth-like temperatures and pressures, and you know, it's you all saw the cloud cities in the Star Wars franchise. You know, it could easily be something like
You could
that.
farm heat from the surface.
Big time, yeah. That's about the right distance for a great, you know, Dyson belt or, you know, Dyson sphere. If we and you know, you'd be a victim of the solar or red giant phase. But hey, we got enough time, you know, for that.
Okay.
But I think Art's book is great. You know, he really did a masterful job on his When Everyone Chose to Make Art and Live Longer. I mean, bravo, Art. I went ahead and got the free trial of Kindle, you know, which is, I think, a standing 30-day freebie, and you can get it that way. By the way, do you get any like monetary compensation when people get your book through the Kindle trial, Art?
Yeah, it's per read pages.
Ah,
So if you read through the whole book, it usually gives me like 22 cents.
oh, okay.
Or
So it actually
4.90.
keeps track that you've read the whole thing, like.
Yeah. It
That's
keeps-
actually true of last year's book that we did, the Future Visions book. There's also a section, not just that you bought the book, but there's another version where how many pages did they read? Okay, so
Yeah,
Great.
and that's a variable. It depends how many people subscribe to the Kindle Unlimited. And then there's like a percentage of that pool that gets split among pages read somehow.
Wow.
So.
thanks,
Both.
Daniel. Hey, Jason,
one
we
other
gotta,
thing, one other quick thing,
Yeah.
on the YouTube algorithm, go ahead and come up with a, you know, a device that gets people to comment, like, you know, a contest. If you comment with this word in the comments, you'll be up for a prize, you know. So
Okay.
people do stuff like that to increase the algorithm. And
Got it.
where did Sci-Fi go by Allen Crowley? He had to leave early, I guess, right?
Yeah, we're only supposed to take an hour. We're almost 2 hours now. So
Okay.
we're gonna wrap up because the premiere of the podcast is about to start. Jason's the last one. Jason, any comments or concerns, questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thanks,
No.
everybody. And Thiago, you don't have to come off mute, man. Stay where you are. Thiago, thank you for your time, my friend. We'll talk about it at work. All right, everybody. Live long and prosper.
Oh, that's a person. Okay.
Yes, it's a person. He's a Boeing engineer in Brazil.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. All
All
right.
right.
Take care. Bye-bye.